Can AI help with racial healing? That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. It is called 1 Million Truths, a science-based initiative dedicated to building solutions to resolve racial conflict, leveraging the power of artificial intelligence, AI. And with us is the creator of the project, the CEO of Common, Mark Eckhardt. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me today.
Great to meet you. Well, let's start with some background about the organization and about the project.
Beautiful. So 1 Million Truths is a science-based initiative that's dedicated to racial healing and reconciliation. Our mission is to transform the way we think about and respond to racial and ethnic conflict in our communities and in our lives and throughout the U.S. by leveraging AI.
Can you go in depth a little bit more as to how the process will work here, at least the hope?
Absolutely. Everything we do centers on personal stories that people are invited to submit to our platform. So they can go to 1milliontruths.com, they can record a story about their experience with racial conflict and submit it. That becomes part of our database. And then we're going to be using AI to analyze, ideally, 1 million or more stories in order to come up with patterns and trends and to identify things that can be replicated because they're working. We'll use AI to identify ways of thinking or ways of behavior that are prohibiting progress, and we'll also identify, ideally, ways to make better use of resources, for example.
Can you give us a scenario of how this happens, how this can work?
For example, yes, absolutely. A good example is a story we like to share about a young man who was showing up for school very, very late, consistently late. And it got to a point where he was on the verge of being suspended. And apparently what happened was he had to take a series of series of versions of public transportation, a train and a bus, in order to make it to school. And the system was constantly late. And so he would arrive tardy to school. Through analysis using AI, what happened was they were able to create a program making use of transportation services like Lyft and Uber to support young people in getting to school on time. So that's an example of how a story can be analyzed and become part of a very important in the center of a solution.
How can AI help bring more people together and have conversations, the conversations that are so needed?
For me, AI is about human beings in relationship, human beings stewarding AI. And so again, by amassing 1 million plus stories, we're going to identify narratives and themes that are not front and center in the media and in our day-to-day life experiences. And we'll be able to bring people together to have conversation about those insights and those differences and to illuminate perspective. We'll be able to help people develop the capacity to hold multiple perspectives. We'll be able to support people in developing the skills to really engage through a methodic process to coming together and meeting people that have very different points of views and philosophies about the country and life.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about you and how you became involved with this and got involved with Common.
Sure. So I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Common, and we launched Common in 2010 to help people create solutions to the world's most challenging problems. And so over the years, we've worked with people in 27 different countries and 38 different industries. We've helped people generate a measurable social and environmental impact, in addition to about $100 billion in organizational value. And so when the idea for 1 Million Truths came to mind, when I recognized that there might be an opportunity to first share my story and invite other people to share their stories and have those stories be part of our collective experience and part of a solution, it was at that moment that I realized that I could leverage my couple of decades of experience working with presidential candidates and top economists and working at the intersection of biodiversity loss and climate change and human migration and macroeconomics and conflict and peace building.
What is your sense? Are we as divided as everyone seems to think we are?
The research says that we actually have more in common than we actually know. And the problem is there's so much noise and there's so much chaos in the media, on social media platforms and technology platforms. So it's very hard for us to know what's actually going on and what the majority of us actually believe and want. At the same time, there has been a 50-year trend, or we're in the midst of a 50-year trend of increasing intolerance. And I think that that's a result of much larger problems that are just generating pressure. We know that our governments aren't working optimally. We know that climate change is having a real effect on our day-to-day lives. And we know that things like the war in Ukraine and now the world war in the Middle East have a downstream effect as well. So I think there's just a lot going on in the 21st century that makes it challenging for people. And it makes it especially hard for us to know what's actually happening and how do people really, really feel. And our communications are a challenge. It's certainly a big challenge when it comes to that.
It's interesting that, in a sense, you're turning to technology for some answers, perhaps using AI, while many blame technology to a great extent for social media and spreading untruths or divisiveness.
That's accurate. It's a big problem, and it is accelerating our challenges at quite a rate. I think that what you're speaking to has to do with the underlying values that have been infused into the technology as it's being coded and as it's being built. And that's why I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, because with our database and through analyzing the database, we'll actually be able to engage a technology company and say, hey, let us help you retrain your algorithms to eliminate bias, for example. You know, we have 1 million+ stories of people from all walks of life throughout the country. Let us help you make your technology better and more equitable and socially responsible at the same time, too.
Terrific. So what's the next step? How do people get involved and learn more about what you're doing, and maybe take part?
Thank you for that. Well, it's an honor to invite all of your listeners and the entire country, for that matter, to go to 1 Million Truths, 1milliontruths.com, and record your story and submit it. So become part of this database that's going to allow us to generate new solutions and take new actions. And then from there, as we move forward and we have the capacity to really, really understand what we're dealing with and where the opportunities are, we'll come together and design solutions in our communities to bring people together, to empower people to resolve conflict as it pops up and it flares up in their communities and neighborhoods.
The website again is 1milliontruths.com. Mark Eckhardt, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you.